Yeah, we're on 17 subscribers, so just a lowly 83 left to get that sweet baby URL. Anyway, I've only just clicked over to look at you. Wow, okay. What a massive schwad.
Is that what URL we're going to go for? YouTube.com/sweet baby.
Yeah, well, I'm well up for that. Let's see what happens if I type that in. YouTube.com/channel/sweet baby. No, that doesn't work. It should just actually youtube.com/sweet baby. God, they got 38 subscribers.
We could beat that.
Oh, damn it. Their account, they haven't been active for 10 years. We need to get this off them.
Sweet baby.
Yeah. It's like videos of some kind of gig and then 13 minutes of footage from fireworks at Disney World. So it's good. It's great content. The dawn of YouTube. This tiny disc.
Aww.
Looks like a GameCube disc, but it's a DVD-R video recordable disc. I don't know why I've got that here. I wonder what's on it.
GameCube game.
If it could be any GameCube game, it would be Eternal Darkness.
No, it would be.
I'd like to play that.
Billy Hatcher.
Billy Hatcher.
Demo.
What the hell is Billy Hatcher?
It was an egg-based game that I never played.
Oh yes, it's Sega, isn't it?
Probably.
That's so funny. Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg.
Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg.
Yeah, that's one of those really evocative game art covers that is I saw that everywhere, but no idea what the game is.
Same.
Billy Hatcher. Anyway, enough about Billy bloody Hatcher. I'm sick of the guy and his giant egg. How about me and you crack open this giant egg of an episode, aka episode 18 of Pushing. Sorry, that was a tee up for you. Episode 18 of Pushing
Buttons.
Yeah.
High five.
Did you hear that?
I did hear you clap. It didn't.
Oh,
it's crisp.
Oh, I wonder if, that's a fun thing. Anyway. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and hello everyone that's listening to this podcast today. Yeah, what are you going to say about that?
Nothing. Okay. Literally, it put me in a really almost like Buddhist-like trance. Just made me really blank. Peaceful.
I have that effect on people with my songs, much like Jigglypuff. Hello, everybody. Thanks for retuning in or tuning back in or whatever you're doing. You don't really have to tune into this. It's not in the AM, FM radio style of things. You're just getting it. You're clicking on it with your finger on your phone or whatever it might be. Hello, and welcome back to Pushing Buttons, the video game podcast with myself, Joe Bellum, and over on the other side of my screen and on the inside of your ears is, of course, Mark Liedell.
Hello, everybody. Remember, you can also ask Alexa now, and she responds and knows who we are. It's great.
Alexa, play Pushing Buttons! Hopefully that sets somebody's off.
Playing Pushing Buttons, a video games podcast. Episode 17. I can't remember what it was called.
That's fun. That's a good impression, man. Hello, everybody. This episode, we've got some stuff to cover, as well as some of the usual gubbins. But we're going to be going over some more hot video game news. We've got a little slice of shameless self-promotion for you. But the big kind of topic of the day is... We've touched on it in the past with a barge pole. There's some Nintendo rumours flying around about a new console, but we'll get to that a little bit later. We sort of want to unpack them, pass them around, have a little look at the rumours and see what we think of them. So we'll be doing that shortly.
You passed me the little menu tab that comes in the box. Thank you.
There you go, mate.
Ooh. Oh, look, that truffle. That's the one I want.
Ooh. Oh, I'm a sucker for anything that's got orange in.
Ugh. The opposite of what I want.
I know, I'm an outlier in the chocolate box world. But first of all, we've still got Jiggy sat there on his throne, haven't we?
We have.
He's still sat on his throne, smiling, looking over everyone, going, "Oh, this is sick. I love me an MVL."
Oh, this jingle is sick. Can you play it again this week?
I haven't actually talked to him to see what he thinks of the jingle or anything. I should probably ask him.
Anyway, he's MVL this week. Here's that jingle.
1, 2, 3.
Jiggy, just get jetty. I would play somebody could beat you in any race.
Yep, that's correct.
Jiggy, just get jetty. Games he's finished plenty, and wipe that smile off your face. Wipe that smile off your face.
Jiggy, Josty, Jetty, everybody.
To my surprise, usually what happens is Bellum will write a melody and sort of set up some instrumentation for me, send it my way, and I'll sort of rejig anything that needs rejigging and then mix it. Last week, he just sent me vocals.
Somewhat of a blank slate, really.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there was a vague vibe of what to go on. You had some vocals to go on, but you just did it. You did what? So you did the drums, bass, and guitar yourself, right?
Well, everything's MIDI apart from the guitar because it was quicker.
Okay,
it was quicker
cool.
to just MIDI it all out. But
yeah.
I think it came out all right. It's a funky one.
I flipping love it. It's a lot of fun. And if any of you, there's a little bit of inspiration, although it actually came out in a more original way. Joe Novelli described it as slightly country, which I don't know if I agree with. But the inspiration for it is one of mine and Mark's favourite bands, Wolfpack. If you don't know them, go check them out. And I was doing a little impression of Jack Stratton in the middle and end of the jingle there, with his voice slightly nasal.
That's correct.
Sounds like that. That's correct. So yeah, love that jingle. Thanks, Jiggy, for spreading the word about it. Our podcast, if you'd like to dethrone our dear sweet Jiggy boy, you know what to do. Just tell 5 people about the podcast on social media and tag us when you do so. Thank you very much.
Lovely stuff. Should we do some self-promotion?
Yes, please. That sounds delicious.
Actually, before we start, apologies for last week's audio, and also maybe apologise for this week's audio. My neighbours have started doing a loft conversion, which I can't do a lot about. So, obviously I'll cut it out if it's when I'm not talking. But if it's happening when I am talking, it's not a lot I can do about that. So if you hear some vague knocking or drilling, that's what that is.
So far, there's been no knocking or drilling on my end that I can hear. But we'll see when you put the podcast out.
Excellent.
Yes. Nonetheless, it was slightly off-putting, the high noise floor that was going on in last week's episode. But I listened back to it and had a bloody good time listening to it anyway, Mark. So I don't think you should apologise too much.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna just take a moment to plug our YouTube channel. So far, we've mainly just been putting up our podcast episodes on our YouTube channel. Every week, we put the podcast out on all the podcast services, and we also put it up on YouTube, if that is your way that you consume content. However, we are looking to do more video content because people like visual things and we enjoy creating visual things. So we are going to start doing that. We've both got skill sets that allow it. Last week, it was actually on Halloween, we did our debut stream, didn't we, Mark? It was our first ever stream we've ever done, and it's still up there on our YouTube channel. And yep, you'll be able to tell that it's our first ever stream because there are a few ghosts in the technology cabinet, so to speak. On my end specifically, I had some issues with my Discord and things weren't working, so I could either only see Mark's visual gameplay or listen to the audio, but not both. So it was atrocious as an experience for me and very difficult to have fun with. So it was quite a rocky stream, but we are working things out. I think we're working things out, and we're going to have another go at streaming soon, aren't we?
Yeah. It was good fun anyway, and I sort of watched it back in parts, and you can go check it out. It's on the channel. It was the Pushing Buttons Halloweeny Streamy. And we played a little bit of Amnesia, which is a spooky game from 2010. But yeah, Bellum wasn't sort of involved much in that experience because he couldn't hear it. And obviously, sound is a big part of that game.
And it also led to me talking over most of the cutscenes in the game. So I not only ruined it for myself, but for you also.
But yeah, go check that out. But as well as some potential live streams, as Bellum says, we're going to do more video content as well. And we're hoping to get our first little video out on, what's the date going to be? It's a Monday, but it's going to be the 9th of November. That's what we're aiming for.
Yes.
So you're probably listening to this on the Saturday if you're picking it up hot and fresh. So it'll only be a couple of days till that video's out, we hope. So please do go subscribe to the YouTube channel. Go watch the live stream in the meantime. Give it a little thumbs up. Hit the bell notification. That's it. I think we're done there. But
I think we are. Yeah, we would just love to start a little bit of a community, get some people chatting to each other within our community, and that us having a YouTube channel and you being able to see our faces and hear our and watch our gameplay and that kind of thing is all part of that. So we'd love it if you would go and subscribe to that. So sort of self-promotion out of the way, back to our usual bit to start off the episode. Mark, what have you been playing on your computer or other video games consoles?
Apex Legends with you and friendly friend Joe Hines.
Yes, and we're shit at it.
Oh, we snuck in some rounds this morning and we were awful. I'm the same as you. I play better when I'm just diving into like trios with randos. Like when I do that, I'm godlike. But yeah, as soon as I jump in with you guys, I'm like,
yeah. It's just, we had a few occasions where we started the game and
wiped a team or
we were near another team, and we wiped it. So we had some moments of success, but on the whole, fairly poor.
Yeah, maybe we'll attempt to live stream some this week. Should we do that?
I think that's a great idea, and then people can watch. We could just do some duos, maybe.
Ooh,
maybe.
Yeah, I'm well up for that.
Maybe.
More Killing Floor 2, which is just excellent, good fun. Just enjoying killing zombies in a violent, gory manner to metal music. Yeah, just leveling up different classes and stuff. It's great fun. Highly recommend it. It's on Steam sale for the Halloween sale, so now's a better time than ever to pick that up. This one was so like last week Lawal Mohammed was suggesting some games, and one of them was called Frog Fractions, which he said was free on the Steam. So during that episode I literally downloaded it. Lawal, what the hell is this game? First of all, it doesn't have a volume slider, so it blows your ears out. It looks horrible, and you're basically a toad or a frog, rather, on a lily pad collecting butterflies. And I think what you're trying to do is stop them attacking your fruit. But when you lick them, like fractions come up, but for no real reason. And then at the end of the wave, you buy an upgrade, which will be like you can move the lily pad. The lily pad turns into a dragon head, so you can now move around. Your tongue is homing. Then you buy an upgrade that removes the homing. Then you buy an upgrade that puts the homing back. Then you buy an upgrade that removes the homing. And the cycle continued for about 20 minutes before I gave up and stopped playing. So it's obviously a gag game, but I probably did.
Is it educational because of the fractions?
No, that's what I was trying to work out. I think it's a gag game, but I didn't if there's a payoff, I didn't make it to it. Because I was bored. But like the thing is I started up again the other night thinking I'll start from where I left off. It didn't save. So that game's deleted. So that was Frog Fractions. I think if you want to play a gag game, my personal recommendation, specifically for you, Lawal, would be Avery Attorney, Pony Island, and Doki Doki Literature Club, but with an advisory warning on that one because it is NSFW. So those games have in very different ways have a different sort of gag thing going on. That's the payoff. Although Avery Attorney is actually like a point and click adventure game, but all the characters are birds and it's just very witty. Those would be my suggestions. This Frog Fractions thing didn't. I mean, it was free and it didn't sell me. So yeah.
Thumbs down.
Yeah, I'm afraid. The final thing was Hyrule Warriors. I'm sure Lawal will message in with like why he thinks it's great. There must be a reason.
Yeah.
I probably didn't get it. Anyway, Hyrule Warriors, Age of Calamity demo. Yeah, I played that. I'm not going to say much about it because it might be related to a video we're releasing next week. But it's really great, and like everyone I've spoken to has been like, yeah, this is actually great. You know, people that don't play Warriors games as well just have really enjoyed it. But that's as much as I'll say on that. But it's free. Go check it out. It might surprise you as well. Please let us know what you think. And I still haven't played Valorant, which I said I would. And I haven't played that yet because I'm more interested in Apex with you guys at the moment. So
is this segment now also becoming games that we haven't played?
No, that was more of an update because like Valorant got
right.
mentioned the last couple of weeks, I think, and I just haven't put any time into it. So
that's another hero shooter. Yeah, in fact, didn't the VGC boys chat about that?
yes, yeah, they did. What about you?
I haven't been playing loads of games, but I have played a lot of these games. So the first of which you mentioned, Apex Legends even, which I played a little bit with you, and I played quite a lot of their sort of Halloween mode, which is quite silly, but I gave
that a go last night.
Yeah.
And the first two games, I had no idea what was going on.
I really like it. I just really like that when you die, you come back as a massively like overpowered melee fighter, and you can kind of help your team out, and it just makes the games a bit longer. So I think that's why I like it, because if all your team's dead, you're not instantly failing.
Well, that's what happened.
It's just quite silly fun.
Yeah, that's what happened on my like third round of it. It finally clicked. I kind of understood what was going on and why these other like zombie things were coming at me.
Yeah.
And
you spawn a big old beast.
Yeah. And then like two of us died, and we kept our last guy alive for a very long time. We got like 5th place after that. But like the amount of people that we actually just straight up murdered as the zombies was real fun. So yeah, it's silly.
Yeah. That's the fun bit, running up and just slapping people about as a zombie. I've also started, because it's come to Game Pass. I know I'm a bit of a broken record with that, but so I thought I'd give it a go. Katana Zero, which is a little indie game. It's sort of like a samurai side-scrolling version of Hotline Miami. So it's sort of like it's one-hit kills. You have to make your way from the start of the room to the end of the room, but if you get hit once, you die, and it's just working out how to get from one end of the room to the other end of the room by performing really cool samurai kills. And it's got a really cool vibe to it. It's got like that sort of John Wick soundtrack vibe to it that we like so much. So yeah, that's a lot of fun. I would recommend Katana Zero if you like sort of indie combat platforming. It's sort of got that puzzle element, like I said, that Hotline Miami has, where you have to work it out. And finally, a game that I've started and is just an absolute pure joy is I finally got around to playing Ni no Kuni, which is obviously quite an old game now, but it was on sale on the Nintendo eShop down to about £8, I think, which is huge considering it was 45 or 40, which in itself is ridiculous for such an old game. But yeah, started playing Ni no Kuni, and I've been playing it with my girlfriend sat alongside me because it's just an utter joy. It's cute. It's lovely. It feels like, this is what our friend Joe Novelli described it as. It feels like a sort of the lost Studio Ghibli film, because obviously Studio Ghibli partnered up with Level 5 to create the game. And the cutscenes in it are just stunning. They are just a Studio Ghibli scene.
Yeah.
And it looks so good. And it's very simple combat. It's sort of like Final Fantasy meets Pokemon, because you sort of summon these little, I can't remember what they're called now, but you summon these creatures into the battle that sort of fight for you, or you can fight for yourself. And you can cast spells. It's very much turn-based RPG combat. But there's quite a lot to it in terms of what you do outside of the combat as well, with spells, loads of things. I don't want to go into it too much because I don't know if you're planning on playing it. Like you mentioned that you might, but
I've wanted to play it since it came on PS3 as a demo.
Yes.
I played the demo and I was like, well, this is great. I'll get this. And then, of course, never did. And then the remaster sort of came out suddenly. I was like, oh, great. Yeah, no, I never played that. And then there was Ni no Kuni 2, and I just never picked them up because obviously RPGs are time consuming, and like I've always had something on the go, so it's never felt like the right time. With it being on Switch for £8, I was very, very tempted, but like with a big game like this, I'm just super unlikely to buy it on a handheld platform.
Really? It's so funny that because I think you said that about something previously, and just like that's so for me, it's the perfect platform, especially when it's a game that doesn't have like graphics. So I can understand with like The Witcher 3 because of like graphical and performance reasons, but because Ni no Kuni is just a cartoon, it doesn't suffer from that in the slightest. So for me, I love being able to like do an RPG on the go, like if I'm on a train or wherever, just be like, oh, I can just farm, or I can just spend this train journey leveling up my character. For me, it's like a perfect way to play it. So why is that not the case for you?
Because like I'm probably going to sit down and invest a bit of time in it, and invest in the story. Sometimes it is a graphical thing. I just on the Switch, I prefer things I can dip in and out of. That don't require like huge amount of brain power to remember what you're doing and where you are when you go back in. I don't mind that with the Nintendo AAA stuff like Breath of the Wild or whatever. But if I'm going to play a larger game, I'm more likely to play it on, if I had a console, or sat at my PC where I can appreciate it on a larger screen. And of course
you can dock it.
Yeah, I was going to say, of course you could dock the Switch, but even then I can use my Xbox controller. Like I just kind of sway towards that experience more so.
Yeah,
I'm very unlikely to get on a train and open up a really big sprawling RPG game.
I hear you. I hear that, mate. I hear that. I'm thoroughly enjoying that, and just looking forward. The story is just well nice as well. It's got a really nice story. So thoroughly enjoying that. If people are into RPGs or cute stuff, go check out Ni no Kuni. It is on sale on Nintendo eShop.
Excellent. Should we move on to some news?
Let's move into the news of the world today. News of the video game world specifically. And it looks like we're starting off with some more joyous delays, Mark. That's all we're getting at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. And the first delay, well, no, there are more delays, I've just checked. The first delay is Far Cry 5. I think we had an interesting discussion about Far Cry.
Isn't it Far Cry 6?
Yeah, it might be. Might be a typo.
It's a typo.
It's a typo. So yeah, Far Cry 6 rather, delay. We had an interesting chat with Dan Mayo when he was on the show on episode 5 about Far Cry, and we both kind of had similar experiences where we've both played a Far Cry game and were very Far Cried out after it, because they're all kind of the same. So I don't really have any interest in this. I haven't been following it. I didn't play 4 or 5, so this doesn't affect me. Ubisoft are trash anyway, so like it's kind of whatever, but yet another delay.
Yeah, I like that Giancarlo Esposito is in it, as he's a very, very good actor.
Yeah.
But I've never really dug the Far Cry games particularly, but you know, if this gets rave reviews, you never know. But yeah, it's not really my cup of tea, but that's another delay for you. And that's just, add that to the heap that we've had from 2020. And in other news in the delay world, the reported Mass Effect trilogy, which still hasn't officially been announced, is reportedly delayed to 2021. And there will be no Switch port. So it is just going to be for PC and Xbox and PlayStation.
Yep.
However, after I've done a little bit of digging, it's coming up as N7 Day. N7, of course, being a big deal. What is N7 in Mass Effect? Is it
it's the army, isn't it?
Your kind of the army, yeah. So it's N7 Day coming up soon in November the 7th, which will have actually happened. No, is that the day that we're planning on releasing this podcast, I think. And there is an event taking place on November 7th, N7 Day, in which the original cast of the trilogy are having a virtual reunion. So all of the voice actors from the first 3 Mass Effect games are getting together, and there's going to be a bit of an event. And there's, on N7 Day, they normally do release something, some kind of little tidbit about something. So who knows? That might be when they're going to talk about this remaster finally, which would be nice.
That would be nice.
I wonder if part of this is speculation. I wonder if part of the delay is to get potentially it ready for next gen consoles as well, or they're just not done with it. Who knows?
I can give you the N7 Mass Effect Wiki fandom.
Yes, please.
N7 is a vocational code in the Systems Alliance military. The N designates special forces, and the 7 refers to the highest level of proficiency. So N7 can roughly be translated as big boys.
Big boys. So Big Boys Day is coming up November the 7th. Who knows? There might be something about the trilogy, finally. This next piece of news looks a little bit more PC nerdy, Mark, so you can take it.
Sure. AMD have finally showed off their 6000 series lineup to challenge NVIDIA's high-end 3000 series card. The benchmarks so far are looking promising, but as always, wait until the demo cards or whatever you want to call them are out to all the reviewers' hands, and we'll see where we are and check out what the real story is. But basically, it looks like they're now finally competing with the high end. It looks like they've made big leaps and bounds over the previous generations. AMD have been extremely disappointing in the GPU arena for a decade or so. So it'd be great to sort of have competition back again and bring AMD back in the race, and also just give consumers more choice and hopefully with it, lower prices.
We love those low prices, baby. Next up, people are raving about the PS5's new controller, the Dual Sense, and specifically its haptic feedback system, which emulates different surfaces and adds a new sense of depth. And the new trigger system, which has added resistance using a little motor that can change the resistance of the trigger and where it activates. So it basically emulates pulling a real gun trigger. And if you're pulling back the string of a bow, you'll feel the tension in the triggers. And people are using it and saying it does really feel sort of next gen. And it's sort of a massive leap up from what Nintendo were trying to do with the HD rumble in the Joy-Cons.
Yeah, I've never seen a game use it either. Never.
No. Well, as in, like, I played lots of games with Rumble, but I haven't played any games that actually utilize it as sort of a mechanic in the game.
Yeah, I watched a video on it, and they were playing Astro's Playroom, and it apparently really it really like emulates those surfaces. So if you're on wood, you kind of, if it's like a hollow surface or glass, you feel the differences between those two things. It's quite clever. The controller also has a little speaker in it to sort of go along with that, so it informs the feeling with a little bit of sound. Yeah. So it sounds really clever.
It sounds great. I think it's one of those things, and I've sort of said this before, that I think they will utilize really, really well with Sony first-party games.
That's what I was about
I think
to
it'll
say,
be
yeah.
amazing. But I can't really see developers who are third party going out of their way to because they'll just have to add it in for the whole game just for one console, which I just don't really see them doing. Also, there's been some sort of, well, I don't know if you call them memes, but some people chatting about it saying, how will it affect a game that is ranked or that is sort of PvP if it is that it makes it harder to pull the trigger of a gun? Will that make it worse? But I assume that's the kind of thing that just wouldn't be turned on in competitive multiplayer games.
Yeah, probably. There might be something within the single player if it's put in as a function where your gun jams as part of the story and they incorporate that into the trigger. Things like that. Yeah. Or quickly fire the 50 cal and it feels heavier because it's a massive F-off big cannon gun. But like,
I think that it could be a really cool thing in, like, say something like the Horizon Zero Dawn sequel that I think involves a bow and arrow. I haven't played the games, but I think there is a bow and arrow in it. If it is the kind of thing where you start the game, it's really tough to pull the trigger down to fire the arrow because you're sort of weak, and as your character progresses, the trigger becomes easier to press down. That sort of thing is going to be really smart, and that's some really next gen groundbreaking technology that you want to see more of in consoles.
Yeah, it's kind of branching slightly into the 4D space, but without going like 4D cinema stupid. So I quite like the idea. But as you say,
definitely,
probably mostly first party titles. So we'll see.
And I mean, PlayStation has got a reputation for exceptional first party games, and this will probably just make them even better. So kudos to them. What's next?
Well, the little add-on to that, people have noticed that for some reason the DualSense controller will work with PS3 and not PS4.
That is weird.
Which is just a bit odd, and I don't really know if it means anything. But
as in they've like just turned on the PS3 and tried it out with it and it just works,
apparently.
Or have they had to do like a hack to?
No, apparently it will sync,
but it doesn't work with the PS4.
Yeah, it's just bizarre.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they've intentionally made it so that you can't use it for PS4 because people still have PS4s out there and they still want people to buy PS4 controllers. So that doesn't surprise me because that's quite a Sony move, and PS3 is quite an obsolete console. So they're just like, we don't need to worry about it. If people work that out, they'll work it out. Also, I don't know if you've seen it. I watched a video of someone controlling a Nintendo Switch with the DualSense.
Oh no, how did they do that?
I don't know. There's a video of them like going through the menus and then starting to play a game with the DualSense. So I don't know if it's just like Again, that might be some kind of hack that someone's done with the firmware. But if it is that they've just turned on the Switch and they're just like, oh, DualSense work with it, that'd be
This is great.
mad.
It's better than a Nintendo Pro controller.
Yeah, well, it would be better than a Switch Pro controller. Final piece of news. Gran Turismo 7 is reportedly launching in the first half of 2021. Nice, shiny racing game.
Yes.
Yeah, it's racing sims, a genre that I do not care for, but a lot of people do. So if you get in the PS5, that'll be a big game for a lot of people, I am sure. Just give me some Burnout, man. Just give me a good Burnout game. Give me a game where I can smash stuff up or I've got weapons.
Yeah. Tell me more.
Tell me more.
Keep going.
Tell me more. Yeah. Wouldn't it be great to have a new Mario Kart game? I mean, Mario Kart 8 was great, but I would love Mario Kart 9 with something really innovative. That'd be great. But speaking of Mario Kart and a Nintendo franchise, shall we move on to our chunky topic for the day?
Yeah, go on then.
It is time.
It is
Mark,
time.
there are a lot of rumours flying around. We've mentioned them in... Okay, so it's The Lion King by Disney. It's a good film. Go watch it. Nintendo. Oh, come on. Stay with me. Come on.
Okay.
Bloody hell. You have forgotten who you are. Disclaimer, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about a lot of stuff that's rumour, okay? But there are enough sites talking about these rumours to corroborate it enough, basically, because there's substantial stuff going around about certain things. Some rumours are a little bit more far-fetched. But basically, we want to take this opportunity to look at some of those rumours and maybe have a little chat about what we would want from a Nintendo console, a follow-up to the current Nintendo Switch. Both me and Mark have the day one Nintendo Switches, the ones without the extra battery life, the ones that aren't the Switch Lite. So,
My left Joy-Con's broken.
Again?
Yeah, it's actually broken. As in, it all functioned, but the little light, the little light on the side, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work as a one-player controller anymore. It only syncs as a pair, not as a single.
They are...
They're trash.
They're some of the worst functioning. I think when it's all working, I think they're quite clever and there's some good things to them, but they are some of the worst functioning controllers in terms of how easily they don't work
Yes.
I've ever experienced. And
Yeah,
I don't
for
know
sure.
how on earth Nintendo ended up with that, especially at such a high price point. Anyway, that's a topic for another time. So I guess the first thing to cover is what we want for the next Nintendo console is controllers that work. I've sort of got a lot of this stuff from techradar.com, which is a great website that has lots of stuff about tech. But they've got a great article about all of the rumors, and we're gonna talk about some of them, but there are loads. The first sort of port of call really is the basis of all of this, that it is widely reported that Nintendo is aiming to release a 4K Switch, and inverted commas, Switch 2.0 in 2021. But there has been no official word from Nintendo yet. It's all just stuff being found from various sources, various companies. Specifically, a recent report by Bloomberg has alleged that Nintendo is asking developers to make their Nintendo Switch games 4K ready, adding weight to previous rumors that Nintendo has a resolution upgrade up its sleeve with a 4K ready upgraded Switch console. Bloomberg also suggests that Nintendo is planning a bunch of new games alongside the console, which the report says is why this year, so 2020, has been relatively fallow for Switch releases. A new, more powerful console could certainly be a good way to show off Breath of the Wild 2. So, I suppose the sort of gut reaction to that is, firstly, having the word sort of 4K and Nintendo spoken in the same sentence does not really... is bizarre to me and not something that I thought I would ever hear. Obviously, it is the next big leap, and Nintendo have always been very much behind the curve. For example, the Nintendo Wii without any HD capability when all of the consoles were HD and HD ready. So it sort of sounds like they're trying to play a bit of keepy uppy, a little bit of sort of like keeping up with the Joneses, and the Joneses being PlayStation, Xbox, and PC.
Yeah, I don't really know how I feel about that, because Nintendo have always, post GameCube at least, for sure, have always sort of been running their own race. And
Yes.
I would say very successfully with the Nintendo Wii. I do look back at that console and think, actually, there was so much fun to be had with that thing.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of bloatware, a lot of third-party trash that littered the shelves, but in general, just a lot of fun, a lot of great games.
A lot of great games, a lot of innovation, and also a lot of things that brought in what I would call casual gamers and also just non-gamers. There were so many games that they put out there. I mean, stuff like Wii Sports, obviously, that did entice people that wouldn't normally play games to pick up a Wiimote.
Yeah, so when I hear that I mean, the thing is that we've got the Switch, and that's not a 4K console. It's a 720p console in handheld, 1080p on the screen. And that's kind of fine. We're used to Nintendo not having the same level of graphic fidelity as the big boys, and that's all right. The worry here is that if they're making a 4K, it doesn't sound like they're making a 4K Switch. It sounds like they're making a 4K console. So what happens to Switch support here? Because if this Bloomberg report is accurate, it's saying that they're planning a load of new games alongside it, which explains why it's been a crap year for Switch games. So it already shows that Switch support is basically been tossed out the window.
So are you sort of describing a Wii to Wii U sort of situation in which the Wii U was an HD console, but it was marketed in a very confusing way in which people were like, oh, so is it the Wii? Oh, no, it isn't. It's a totally new console, and the two aren't linked.
Well, I always thought, I mean, yes, I agree with what you said, but I also always saw the Wii U as some weird, and I was right. I was proved right when the Switch came out, but it looked like a test for some sort of like external screen vibe.
Yeah,
I mean that massive controller literally looks like a prototype for the Switch, and obviously that was a huge failure. But there was also a failure of marketing and all sorts. The hardware was weird. Like it was a bit of a messy time for them. So when the Switch came out and kind of just went, this is not the most powerful thing in the world, but look what it can do, and look at all the customizability and the little controls and stuff. So we were kind of like, okay, cool, that's great. But with this year being so quiet, these reports of 4K, I just see the Switch being dumped, if this is true.
I think it is definitely worrying in that regard. I do think there is, as we will go on to see, there seems to be talk about it being 1080p in handheld, then up to 4K on the TV. So they're basically doing a similar thing again, in which the dock, however it functions, will then be upscale. Whether it's upscaling or not, maybe this time it will actually have some kind of GPU or some kind of power inside it. Who knows?
Because I heard there was going to be no handheld mode. That's another rumor I heard.
So another thing that I'd say, which I haven't actually detailed in here, is they recently had a sort of stockholder meeting, and they are really doubling down on how important they think the sort of ethos and the concept behind the Switch is in terms of the on the go versus the being at home thing. And I do, from everything they say, they are really happy with that as a sort of ethos and concept. I don't see them moving away from it. Because, like, as you said, if it was a 4K console, a thing you're plugging into your TV and that's it, what has, like you said, Switch as we know it surely is dead. I mean, they can't call it a Switch because the whole idea is it switch because it switches from docked. So I mean, like I said, we literally don't know, but I mean, wouldn't complain if Breath of the Wild 2 looks absolutely stunning in 4K on my TV. Wow, that's an absolutely beautiful thing, but I agree with you in that I don't want it to be at the behest of the console that I currently have and love, and all of the games that I have for that, which I want to carry over onto my next console with the Nintendo family.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Something to be wary of as well is Nintendo are very similar to Sony in a lot of ways, and potentially even more ruthless than Sony in that they aren't so keen on being consumer friendly and thinking, no, if you've got it on this console, you can carry it over to the next one. Nintendo are probably the worst for making you buy their games over and over and over again on every console you've ever had.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the thing is you've owned a Switch from launch, so I don't know how you feel. Yeah. I had mine, a few months afterwards.
Yeah.
I've never felt like it's really gotten going. We had a good first year and a half, but it's never felt like it's at full tilt, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, we've never had a major UI change. We've never had lots of apps and useful things appear. We've never felt like there's a string of games to really look forward to. But there have been some great games and obviously a lot of third-party stuff, but it's never felt like, wow, this is a great place to be. Isn't everything fantastic? Oh, can't wait for this update. It still feels like it's not really evolved.
No, it feels as though they were very much satisfied with that initial success that they had in their first 6 months to a year. And since then, they've sort of got away with the bare minimum, really, and thought, well, let's just focus on what we're doing next, which might not be the case, but... And it is very Nintendo, really, to get success, get monetary success, and instead of thinking what someone potentially like Xbox do, who is things, that's not good enough, or how they're going into the next generation anyway. We want to be really pro-consumer and give as much as we can and continue to iterate. What Nintendo do is think, wow, people seem really happy with this. They're going to buy it. Looks like we're done with that, or looks like we don't need to do anything else for them. And yeah, I totally agree with you. It's been very stagnant. And the fact that, like you said, in three and a bit years now, 3.5 years, the UI hasn't changed a jolt. It's been the same the whole time. Is kind of mad, or at least no customization to it, or they've added little tiny bits here and there, like the Nintendo, the Nintendo Online NES, the SNES emulator stuff.
Yeah, it just feels very stagnant.
Yeah,
and the store is a mess.
Yeah,
which we've discussed before, and they never really addressed the Joy-Con issues.
No.
So that it's just kind of, it's not that it's been fully left to rot, but 2020 has really doubled down on this like stagnation of the whole affair.
Yeah.
So I'm almost kind of sad every time I switch on my Switch, and I'm not like particularly excited to play anything on it. Really.
Yeah.
But again, that's not to say that there hasn't been some great experiences in games on there. But it all just feels a bit uncertain. There's another rumor that we'll go into quickly. A data miner has dug into the new Nintendo Switch version 10.0 firmware and found hints that it adds preliminary support for a new Switch model, NX-ABCD1, whatever that means, with a secondary display, like possibly a dual screen like the Nintendo Switch.
Nintendo
this
DS.
Is the same. Yeah. Sorry, Nintendo DS. This is the same data miner who previously uncovered that Nintendo was working on a revised, what turned out to be longer life Switch from firmware 9.00. However, like with all these rumors, treat it with heavy skepticism. And
so so this guy's had success in the past, basically, because he found out about this longer battery life Switch that actually did end up coming out. So I mean, surely they're not going to go down the DS route again. Why would they do that?
I mean, the only thing I can think of is Samsung still trying to plow on with their like dual screen folding phone technology. If they made a Switch with two screens, it would be massive, at least in its current design.
Yeah.
But if they're able to incorporate a folding screen, which I don't think they will, there's kind of a potential there for something cool and interesting. I don't want that personally, but
also would it work in like how do you then dock it to the TV because you're losing a screen?
I don't really know how that would work, to be honest with you.
I reckon this is one of those lost in translation things where there's probably something in there about an extra screen support, but it having a dual screen like a Nintendo DS is something that I just don't see. I mean, how many gimmicks can one console have? I don't see it being a Switch and a DS at the same time.
Yeah, unless it like you say, if it's a massive loss of translation, it could be that Nintendo DS ports are coming over to the Switch.
Very true, which I'd be happy with.
Yeah, that'd be more likely and would make more sense. Again, you'd lose the dual screen aspect of the games. The third option I can think of is that maybe they're adding support for docking without a dock. So essentially, you're playing cabled, and you use your Switch and the screen in your hands as the controller. So therefore, you gain that sort of Wii U aspect.
Oh, I see.
Of having a screen in your hands.
So sort of the screen showing the map sort of thing, like they used to do.
Yeah, maybe. Again, I wouldn't want that because holding the Switch is not super comfortable. I would prefer to just buy a Pro Controller for those long sessions. So those are the two scenarios I can think of from the top of my head.
Yeah, a slightly odd one, and I agree with you. Not something that I would want. This next one is interesting because it's sort of talking about different ways in which they could do the sort of enhanced display. So there's basically slightly different from the 4K rumours we've been seeing with this sort of Nintendo Switch Pro. We may see a mini LED display replace the current LCD screen. According to a report from Taiwan's Economic Daily News, the still rumoured Switch Pro model could sport mini LED screens supplied by Innolux, a well-known a well-known manufacturer in the field. The current Switch and Switch Lite consoles use an HD 720p LCD screen. If a new Switch console did have 4K capability, we imagine it'd be in docked mode, with handheld mode offering a slightly boosted full HD, which is obviously 1080p. Upgrading to a mini LED display instead of LCD would make all those pixels look better than before, as mini LED displays use thousands of tiny individually controlled backlights in the glass substrate of the panel to offer a wide contrast ratio, better brightness control, deeper blacks, and richer colours. It could even mean thinner and lighter product designs. There are rumours that 2021 will bring an iPad Pro 12.9, which utilises mini LED technology too. So it could be a technology that's on the rise. I mean, I'm not by any means smart in the differences between these LCD, QLED, OLED, LED, all that sort of screen project, technology. But I mean, is this something you know anything about, the difference between LCD and LED?
Not enough to talk about in detail, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I do occasionally watch videos on this kind of stuff because it does interest me. Some of it goes over my head. It's a lot to do with the size of the individual light sources, the purity of the light, the using different like layers of glass and substrates to basically refract the light differently and provide clearer images and higher pixel depth and all this sort of thing. Better off-axis viewing, but yeah, I genuinely couldn't talk about these particular technologies in any great detail. I recommend going and looking for yourself on YouTube, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
However, we talk about what do we want from a future, Nintendo console, and for me it boils down to two things. Ultimately, I want the Switch to be supported, and continue to be supported.
Yeah.
But if they did make a new Switch, 1080p in handheld mode with a bigger screen and somehow keep it the same size and lighter, this like rumor of the mini LED technology is right up that alley and what I would be looking for in a new Switch. The 4K thing, I mean, again, like you mentioned, maybe it's in the dock this time. Maybe it's upscaling and not true 4K.
Yeah.
I don't know, because mobile chips and APUs are becoming, fairly impressive. So it's not totally out the window, but I don't think we're there yet. So I don't really know what's going to be happening there.
How about this? They launch a Switch Pro, and a lot like the Lite. It's purely a handheld console, and it's a 1080p handheld console. But you can buy separately a 4K dock that does have a GPU inside, or whatever it is to natively run 4K, and that is then something you can get separately. So if you want, you could just get the new handhelds like the Lite, 1080p Qualboy, or you can separately buy this. I don't know how much they charge for it, but a little dock that if you wanted to, you could then get 4K visuals on your telly box.
Yeah, I mean, it's going into the realm of like overcomplication.
Yeah,
then, isn't
definitely.
It? Do you know what I mean? Like people want to be able to buy a product that they know is going to do what it says on the tin.
Yeah.
It's a problem that the Xbox 360 had at the start of its life, because like some of them didn't have HDMI, that they didn't come with, like some came with hard drives, some didn't come with memory cards, some did, some didn't have a Wi-Fi adapter. Like it was like a bit of a minefield to make sure you were buying the thing you wanted. And I think avoid that at all costs.
Make it
I mean, I
clear.
know what you're saying, but you kind of just want to buy the box know it comes with one controller, has all the capability written on the box, and maybe comes with a game, whatever.
Yeah.
And then job done, set it up. So I think that
would be the ideal. It's just,
yeah.
Nintendo are weird.
They are weird, but I think that would be a bit complicated, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely agree with you, especially with the Switch and Nintendo products being so sort of child-friendly and kid-friendly, and parents having to buy them for their kids. They want to make it as simple as possible, I suppose.
Yeah.
I think something that you sort of mentioned throughout is this support and this acknowledgement of Nintendo not necessarily always being very user-friendly, not really making things as easy as it could be to be a Switch player, or as convenient as it could be, I should say. And what I would love to see is sort of like a fresh ethos from Nintendo, and whether it is a new face of the company stepping out and being like, listen, we're going to make Nintendo we're going to bring it up to modern day in terms of support and the way the UI, and also what the console supports, instead, whether it's apps and all this stuff. I don't know if they necessarily need that, but it's more, like you said, about that ecosystem, but still staying true to Nintendo's core values, which is innovation in gameplay and really well-made first-party fun games that are some of the best examples of first-party games. Like things like Breath of the Wild, Mario Odyssey, 2 games that came out on the Switch, I do think are some of the best games of all time. So I genuinely think that Nintendo can continue doing that and should continue doing that. I don't necessarily think they need to keep up with the graphics, but like you said, would love a 1080p screen that's slightly bigger, doesn't have that bevel that takes up a quarter of the bloody console. That's an exaggeration, but it's a lot. And, just felt like a really sleek piece of kit and not something that falls apart like a toy. I want something that, looks a bit like an Apple product, that is really lightweight, thin, feels sturdy, but a modern day product, not something that feels like a kid's toy. And I do think Nintendo do have a danger of that quite a lot, but still making their great games.
I mean, some of these rumors are slightly mad. I mean, the dual screen thing is completely out the window. That's got to be a mistake.
Yeah.
The 4K thing sounds like it's going to happen one way or another. Whether it's directly inside the Switch and the APU is just an absolute powerhouse that we don't know about.
Yeah.
I don't know. The mini LED screen stuff would be great, but personally, what I would want is, like you say, exactly that: a Switch, better Joy-Cons, no bezel. That's I want that edge-to-edge screen. I want it crisp 1080p Full HD in my hands, and then a dock that maybe is more than an £80 piece of plastic. Who knows? The other option I would want, but this would be a departure from the Switch thing, and again would be an anti-Switch support thing, and won't happen. Would actually just be a Wii 2. So bring back that sort of level of interaction. I mean, they could just do this with the Switch and bring out a Wiimote Switch thing. Do you know what I mean? But I'd love to see that stuff brought back.
I don't think we can ever rule out Nintendo doing something mad like that, purely because they have always been a 2-console company. They've always had a handheld console, and they've always had a console, an at home on your TV console. And it wouldn't surprise me if they had something that ran alongside the Switch, because even though the Switch does do the sort of best of both worlds, it is their sort of main headline console, I suppose. And if they are bringing out a new version of it that has all the bells and whistles, it does sort of leave a gap really in the 3DS world, because they've sort of stopped supporting the 3DS now. I think they have officially stopped supporting the 3DS. So it leaves a gap. So I wouldn't put it past them to think of something new and crazy that they bring out. VR, it could be VR. You never know. Nintendo could be working on VR. I doubt that, but it could, something like that.
They've already got VR, mate. It's the Labo. You literally strap the Switch to your head.
And you build it out of cardboard like an idiot would.
They've done it in the past, haven't they? When they brought out the DS, they were like, no, we love Game Boy Advance. We're going to support it. And then within a year, dumped it. And then they brought out the Switch. 3DS, sorry, and they were like, no, we love DS, we're going to keep supporting it because we can make both 3DS and DS games. dumped within over a
Yeah.
year. Switch came out. Nope, 3DS is a legitimate handheld platform that we're going to continue to support. And then a year and a half later, they dumped that. So, like, who knows? I mean,
Yeah.
you can't really blame them. You have to move on. But on the other hand, be upfront with what's happening.
Yeah.
Because I don't want them to come out and suddenly go, oh, we've got this 4K console and we're going to develop the Switch games more as a handheld thing. See a Switch, we're actually done with you.
Yeah, they've sort of shot themselves in the foot, really, by their console cycle is so out of whack with the other console cycles. In that this console is only this console is only 3 years old, but the technology is so far in advance of what the Switch was when it came out in 2017. So they've really sort of shot themselves in the foot with that, which is really frustrating because the Xbox Series X and PS5 are going to come out with their ray tracing and all their beautiful stuff. And that isn't what Nintendo fans want. That isn't necessarily what they need on their console. But the sad fact is that now if a developer is making a next-gen game, they will have to make a totally different version for the Switch because it's not as powerful. And I mean, they've already been doing that. Every developer has been having to make a separate Switch version as far as I know. So it's now even more unlikely that a new game is going to find its way onto the Switch. So they're going to have to make a Switch Pro. And then the same thing is going to happen in however many years' time.
Yeah.
But at least if it comes out next year, they're at least making that gap a bit smaller.
Yeah. Do you think they're trying to get more third-party support? Is that their sort of ultimate goal here? Because obviously they've been getting more.
Well, the weird thing the weird thing though that they seem to be going into is cloud gaming. They seem to, like, I don't know if you saw, but like Hitman 3 and Control have just been announced as cloud editions.
I played the demo.
Oh, and how did it work?
Shit.
Yeah, did it not run well at all?
It looked like ass and didn't run all that great.
It's a shame because I really want to play Control. But yeah, if I don't know what they're really I guess they're just thinking, oh, we want to find a way that we can get more modern games onto the original Switch. Because I suppose, yeah, that is a way that they could keep alongside companies and continue to get third-party support, is if they say, oh, well, yeah, you don't have to make a different version of the Switch because we'll stream it. But the simple fact is that not enough people in the UK have good enough internet connections to make that viable.
Like they released that little USB to Ethernet dongle, didn't they? Which was just a really, a really like funny little addition. Like, who is that for?
Yeah,
like pro Smash players that play on Twitch.
I was going to say, yeah,
like,
Nintendo's best handheld console ever that you have to then plug into your bloody broadband to be able to play games online.
I mean,
sit at the
my
window.
PC is wired in because it is so much better. I can't believe I used to play games
that
on wireless.
But that's fine because your PC is sat there all day.
Yeah.
Whereas this thing,
I put a 50-meter Cat6 cable outside the house and drilled a hole in the outside wall.
Amazing.
That's what it took.
Yeah, I need to get that. I need to get on the wired Ethernet life. Yeah. So I think all we can say is Nintendo are capable of anything. They are capable of doing the weird, like when I had a Nintendo DS, which was weird enough as it was, because it had 2 bloody screens. The last thing I was thinking when I was playing that is, God, I wish they'd make this 3D. God, I wish they'd put a little slider on the bottom that makes me go cross-eyed whenever I play Zelda.
Mate, it was great.
It was clever. It was really clever, but it flipping hurt my eyes. I don't know about you.
I didn't ever want it. I watched a video on Super Mario 3D Land, not World.
Yeah.
That was the 3DS one. And that one had like this entire tutorial section that was based on having the 3D turned on. But then you could play the entire game with the 3D turned off and it made no difference.
Oh, right.
As in, it didn't really alter your perspective enough for it to like be a huge feature.
Yeah.
But I'm the same as you. It was just like the threat of a headache was always looming because it was a bit dodge. Like, it wasn't that nice to look at, was it?
No. It was a cool idea, and the 3DS as a console, the actual 3D element to one side was actually a really great handheld console and had some flipping great games on it.
But hey ho, that's Nintendo. It might explain why they've gone so quiet and strange this year, because they're working on stuff.
It's hardly the most like discreet way of like
and abandoned us with nothing but Animal Crossing and a remote control car all year.
This'll shut everyone up. Give them who remembers remote control cars? They'll like that. Give them an RC car.
Well, like Scale Electric.
Scale Electric, yeah. They're weird. They're a weird company, but they make some great stuff. Having played that Age of Calamity demo, I'm so excited for Breath of the Wild 2, man. I loved that game.
This world, give it to me again. Wait, you can have it again. You can play Age of Calamity, and
Yeah, I can.
obviously it's very different gameplay wise, but
I can, yeah.
it's the story's tied in.
Yeah, just hearing all
That's fun, isn't it?
the sound effects again made me so happy. But yeah, that's what we want from the Nintendo Switch 2.0 Pro Elite Cool Guy Edition. How about you? If you're a Nintendo gamer, let us know. Let us know what you would want. Or if you're not a Nintendo gamer, but there's always sort of been something stopping you from doing that, what would you want from a Nintendo Switch 2.0? Please just let us know. That'd be a really nice thing for you to do.
I thought you were asking me again. I was like, we've just spent 40
Can you
minutes
imagine
talking
if
about it.
that was me asking you again? That would be well weird. Did you not hear the slight shift in my tone?
I clocked it afterwards.
Okay, yeah.
At the time, I was like, oh,
He's
what's
putting
going
me on the
We're going to
spot.
go in circles here. Anyway,
Well, that's that, I suppose. Thanks for listening.
if you have any comments on today's subject about Nintendo, maybe you've heard your own rumour, or maybe you've got your own thoughts on these rumours and something to add, please do email us at pushingbuttonspod@gmail.com.
That email again,
You can al-
pushingbuttonspod@gmail.com.
And you can also follow us on social media. The Twitter is @PBPodcastUK and the Instagram is @PushingButtonsPod. Can you give us those again?
Yes, I can. Twitter is @PBPodcastUK and Instagram is @PushingButtonsPod. We're also on YouTube. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Sorry, mate. We currently don't have a cool URL. We need 100 subscribers for that. We're currently on 17 subscribers. We want a lot more subscribers. Please do go and subscribe to us and keep your eyes peeled for a spangly new video on Monday.
We need 83 more subscribers to get to 100 and get our own Pushing Buttons URL. Until then, you can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Pod, Apple Music, YouTube, Deezer, iHeartRadio, and Stitcher. So look out for our podcast on all those platforms, including our YouTube channel, Pushing Buttons.
And you can be in stitches on Stitcher, and you can be none of the other ones work. Or we sound pretty decent on Deezer. Yes.
A podcast a day keeps the doctor away on Apple Podcasts.
Yes. We also get some amazing reviews on Amazon Music.
Amazon. Amazon. And you can spot us on Spotify.
Yes, and we've got a lot of love. Our hearts are full on iHeartRadio because we're on that too.
We're just a couple of geezers on Deezer.
I've already done Deezer, you idiot.
Did you?
Yes,
Oh,
I said
shit.
sound decent on Deezer.
Oh, it's because it was crap. That's why I forgot.
Fair plays.
Got anything for YouTube?
I remember when on Apple Music, the band U2 released that whole album, and nobody wanted it, but it was just appeared on your phone one day. Yeah, we're also on YouTube.
Goodbye, everyone. See you next week.
See you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Stop. Wait a minute. Stop the music. Stop the music.
What? Why? What's going on?
So here's a little podcast extra for you.
Okay. Yeah.
And if you hear pops and bangs, it's firework night, and we've both got a lot of flashing lights and explodey things going on near our windows. I believe that to be true.
I've just seen a Catherine wheel outside.
That's cute.
And there's boys throwing poppers Actually, no, they're not called poppers. That's something else.
Oh, dear.
There's whiz bangers. There's Catherine wheels. I don't know the names of fireworks, so I'm going to stop.
It's all happening. Anyway, I had a tweet earlier from our dear listener, Lawal Mohammed. And I don't know if you saw this, Bellum, but basically he tweeted me a video, which is a documentary about the creation of Frog Fractions, the game we mentioned and talked about earlier.
Indeed, yeah, I saw it as well. It's by NoClip, who actually are a really great YouTube gaming documentary channel, and it's run by Danny O'Dwyer, who is a great sort of game documentarian. So I haven't watched it yet. I saw that you had been tagged in this thing. I'm guessing you are now talking to me because you've watched it. Absolutely
right. You know, we talked about it earlier, and I wasn't like super positive about it. Essentially because I missed the joke. And the documentary is very interesting. We're going to go into spoilers about this game now. So if you just want to go in there and try Frog Fractions for yourself, and either the same thing will happen to you that happened to me, where the sort of development didn't happen, or if you find the secret and, you know, you can sort of open up that world and go into it yourself.
Right.
So spoiler warning from this point onwards, we're going to be talking about Frog Fractions just very briefly. Because it's essentially one of these joke games that I've played a few of them, like I mentioned, Pony Island and things like that, where it sets itself up to be something and then it definitely isn't that thing.
Right, okay.
I do recommend the documentary. Thank you for that, Lawal. It kind of clarified why you liked this game and suggested it in the first place, but it's also just an interesting watch, bit of history.
It's kind of mad that he sent that to you before even he hasn't heard obviously this episode yet, and he hasn't heard what you thought of the episode, so it's mad that he sent you that anyway.
It's kind of worked out quite nicely. So in the documentary, he talks about how he was developing this game and realized what he was making was quite boring. And so he opened up what he was going to do with it and kind of subvert expectations. And the original version of the game had a tutorial in it, but the tutorial revealed that you could dive under the pond.
Right.
And upon playtesting it and a friend of his playtesting it, he was just like, get rid of the tutorial. Now, he openly admits that what this means is that some people would play the game and think this is just a boring, you're just licking bugs, this is really
Which is
dull.
what you did.
Which is what happened to me. Because the only way you would find the secret is if you just weren't really thinking and you basically pressed the S key or pulled down on your analog stick and ended up going under the screen, and then suddenly the game opens up. I didn't do that because I was just expecting more waves and something to happen. Yeah. So I was stuck in this cycle of buying the upgrade that gives you homing, like a homing tongue.
Yeah.
Uninstalling the upgrade, installing it again. And I was like, this is a recurring joke. This has got to be going somewhere. And about 45 minutes later, I was like, I'm done. I don't know what's going on. I'm not progressing.
Yeah.
So that's what happened to me. But the developer openly admits that there is a possibility that a lot of people, this would be their experience. I
kind of rate him for having the guts to do that, because it's such a payoff.
Yeah, it's a massive payoff. So that's kind of spoiler number one, really, is that's how you progress. The second sort of major spoiler is that the game has like dialogue options. It has like a rhythm style DDR section, and it also turns into one of those, like, I forgot what they call them, bullet hells, like a Japanese like space flight shooter.
Oh right, yeah.
Like those 2D bullets everywhere kind of thing.
Yeah. What's the really famous one? Is like Gallagher?
I don't think I know what you mean. It's not Gallagher, but I think I know what you mean. So basically, I've missed out on all of that. So it's still installed, so I may go back and give it another try.
Go on, do it, mate. Do it.
Shall I do it? Well, maybe we could do it on stream or something.
I want to see the moment that the reveal happens.
Yeah.
So is it like a total shift in like gameplay then as soon as you dive under?
Yeah, like I'm not 100% sure what happens, but he takes it in really weird places. Like he just played Dear Esther, and like decided to like he did I forgot what the study's on, but he'd written some sort of essay, and he decided to turn it into poetry. So there's a section where you're like going through a maze and his voice is just reading poetry at you and just stuff like
great.
that.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's just loads of weird little like shifts in tone and gameplay. And I didn't get there, unfortunately. But I thought it was worth just doing a little podcast extra at the end here to sort of validate what was going on there. But yeah, it's a shame it didn't work out for me, but there you go.
Yeah, well, if only you'd seen this. Well, I think it's a weird one because as he predicted, there are just going to be some people that are just like, well, this game's weird. What's the point of that?
Yeah.
But I really like that. So, like, if someone did just, like you said, accidentally do it, be like, whoa, what the hell? Whoa, what? And it'd be such an amazing moment. I like that. I'm going to have to definitely go and watch that documentary now.
Yeah, the documentary is literally just called Frog Fractions Documentary. It's on the No Clip YouTube channel. It's really great. There's a second documentary about Frog Fractions 2 that I've yet to watch, so I'll dive into that one later.
Juicy.
Anyway, we just wanted to dive back into the podcast right at the end there, so we'll cue the end music and bid you goodbye until next week.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, and hope you enjoyed this little interruption. We'll see you next time. Love you. Bye.
Bye.